We throw around the term the cloud all the time, right? Our photos, our work, our entire digital lives, they all seem to just live up there somewhere. But what if I told you the cloud isn't some fluffy white thing in the sky? What if it's something way more solid? Something more like a fortress? Let's dive in and figure out how to secure this modern-day castle.
So let's just start with the most basic question, one that, well, we almost never stop to ask. Where is this thing? Where does the cloud actually physically live?
Well, the answer might surprise you. It's not floating up there at all. It lives right here on Earth, in a massive, very real fortress made of concrete, steel, and miles of fiber optics. These are the giant, super secure data centers that are the physical backbone of our digital world. And this is our real starting point. Because to secure this fortress, we first have to understand its blueprints, its rules, and maybe most importantly, who's responsible for what. So let's start with that foundation. Now, here's the thing about this fortress. You don't own it. You're basically a tenant. And just like any rental agreement, there's a contract, a kind of treaty, that spells out exactly who's responsible for what. In the world of cloud security, we call this the shared responsibility model. And trust me, it's the single most important concept you need to get your head around. Let's break this down, because your responsibilities really change depending on what you're renting. See here, if you're renting raw infrastructure, or IaaS, the provider handles the physical security and the basic virtualization. But you, the customer, you're on the hook for the operating system, your apps, and all your data. Now, move over to platform, or PaaS. The provider handles more, including the OS. You just worry about your application and data. And then you've got software, or SaaS. Think of things like Gmail. Here, the provider manages almost everything. Your main job is to secure your data and make sure you're using the service safely. Understanding this division of labor is absolutely critical. All right, so we've got the rules of engagement down. Now, let's look at the fortress itself. Every good fortress has to start with some seriously solid walls. So let's talk about the physical security. I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. It's kind of mind-boggling, right? How do you even begin to construct a building that's strong enough and resilient enough to hold the data for entire countries, for the global economy? Well, it's not one single thing. It's all about building in layers. First, you start with a strategic location. You're not going to build on a floodplain or right next to an airport. Then you design the physical defenses. We're talking fences, biometric scanners, and even mantra traps that only let one person through at a time. After that, you layer on environmental design, massive redundant power systems, crazy powerful air conditioning. And finally, you design for resilience, with internet connections from multiple different providers so one guy with a backhoe can't accidentally take you offline. It just goes to show you, the cloud is way more physical than we ever imagined. But you see, the fortress isn't just one giant, empty building. The real magic, and honestly, the real complexity, it's all about how the space inside is carved up. So we're moving from the physical walls to the millions of virtual rooms they contain. And the core technology that pulls this off, it's something called virtualization. It's the magic trick that lets one giant physical computer pretend to be hundreds of smaller, totally separate virtual computers. This is what gives the cloud its incredible scale and flexibility. But, as you can probably guess, it also introduces a whole new world of security challenges. In this slide really shows how the entire game has changed. Think about it like this. In the old days, you were worried about someone breaking into a single server. Your security was like a moat around your castle, a strong perimeter. In the cloud, that perimeter is gone. The new high-value target is the hypervisor. That's the software that manages all the virtual machines. If an attacker gets control of that, they could potentially control everything on it. That's why the new mantra is zero trust. You don't trust anyone or anything by default. You verify everything always. So, okay, if the hypervisor is a huge target, what's the real crown jewel for an attacker? What's the ultimate prize? Well, it's gotta be the command center. The one control panel that can manage the entire fortress. In the biz, this is called the management plane. You can just think of it as the Well, the God mode control panel for the entire cloud. It's the set of tools and APIs that let you spin up new servers, configure networks, and even delete your entire infrastructure with just a few commands. Its power is just immense, which makes it target number one for any serious attacker. So locking this down, it's not even a question. It's job number one. And the strategy is defense in depth. You have to start with strong authentication. Multi-factor authentication is an absolute must. Then you hammer down on the principle of least privilege. Basically, if your job is just to check on system health, you should not have permission to delete a database. It's that simple. You have to log and monitor everything, secure your APIs, and treat those admin credentials like they're the crown jewels. Because really they are. But look, even the best fortress in the world isn't foolproof. Things can and do go wrong. A natural disaster, some kind of catastrophic tech failure, stuff happens. That's why every single fortress needs a solid evacuation plan. And in the cloud, that plan, your whole disaster recovery strategy, it really all boils down to answering two very simple but incredibly critical business questions. First up, your recovery time objective, or RTO. And this is all about one thing: speed. After disaster strikes, how fast, down to the minute or hour, do you absolutely need to be back up and running? Is it an hour? A day? Your answer to this question changes everything. And the second question, equally important, is your recovery point objective, or RPO. This one's all about data. How much data can you afford to lose? Are you okay losing the last hour's worth of transactions? The last days? Or can you literally not afford to lose a single byte? This dictates how often you have to back everything up. And this is the key takeaway right here. Your answers to those two questions, how fast do you need to be back and how much data can you stand to lose, they basically dictate everything. Your whole disaster recovery strategy, and especially its cost. A really low RTO and RPO, meaning you want to be back online instantly with zero data loss, that's going to be a much more complicated and expensive solution. It's a fundamental business trade-off you have to make. So we've gone on quite a journey, haven't we? From the physical walls of this cloud fortress to its virtual rooms, its command center, and even its emergency evacuation plan. We know the principles, we know how to make it secure, but as this fortress truly becomes the foundation for everything, our businesses, our governments, our daily lives, it leaves us with one last and maybe the most important question of all. Who do you really trust with the keys?